Hello again, everyone. This is Chris Sciria, and Robert Harding is back. It was fun, though, last week, I have to admit, having Jonathan here, just because we were doing the whole... And he's not Robert Harding. I'm not Robert Harding. He's not Robert Harding.
It was quite a shtick you guys had going.
Right. And that is Robert Harding. He's back. He's feeling better.
I have 90% of my voice back.
90% of Robert Harding is more than 100% of a lot of other people.
Including Jonathan Monfiletta.
Oh, wow. I was going to compliment Jonathan on what a great job that he did last week.
No, he did a nice job.
I thought he did a
He got you to talk about NASCAR.
He did.
Which is quite an achievement.
It is, because I really don't know anything about NASCAR, so that's pretty good. He made me look smart. Not easy to do, folks. Anyways, we're going to talk about, of course, the NFL, because what else would you talk about in March, you know? And one other topic, which we'll get into near the end of the show. But we're going to talk about the NFL, specifically our two favorite teams, him being the Bills fan, me being the Dolphins fan. And the Bills have done some things this week. They have been very active, and they have brought on LeSean McCoy, running back from the Eagles, trading him for Kiko Alonso. Unfortunately, Robert's going to get rid of that jersey that he spent good money on. And then the other big move, trading to the Vikings for Matt Cassel. Mm-hmm. So what's your take on these moves?
I like both to a degree. Matt Cassel, obviously a veteran quarterback, can come in, can be a safety valve of sorts if this whole E.J. Manuel thing doesn't work out this year. I do think that E.J. Manuel will be the starting quarterback. But if that doesn't work out, at least you have Matt Cassel there who has veteran experience and maybe can do a little more with the weapons he will have in Buffalo than he had in Minnesota. The McCoy trade, I mean, it's really, with running backs, it's always kind of this precarious game you play. Kiko Alonso is a great linebacker. I think he'll have a nice, long NFL career. He is coming off knee surgery. He had a decent rookie year with the Bills. But with McCoy, you get a top 2 or 3 running back in the league. Got to love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the way I look at it is, in the NFL, you only play 16 games. This isn't like hockey where you have 82 and, rebuilding projects are accepted and that kind of thing. You only get 16 games. That's a chance you get, and, you want to compete every year. So, in my opinion of the McCoy trade is, even if he only has 4 or 5 years left in the tank, it's 4 or 5 years to make it worthwhile, and gives you a better chance to win, and certainly improves the offense. I don't think C.J. Spiller is even close to McCoy's level, and so McCoy gives you an immediate upgrade at the number 1 back position. So I love both trades.
Okay.
I think it'll work well for Buffalo.
Yeah, I think that Buffalo with a new owner and, of course, all this talk about, they want to get a new stadium or they want to do more renovations to the Ralph Wilson Stadium. But the Pagulas, this is, I think you could say the honeymoon's over, that they bought the team, it's staying in Buffalo. Now it's like, if I'm a Bills fan, it's like, okay, that's great. We need to start winning. Yeah. And you bring in Rex Ryan, who you could say was the hottest free agent coach. But your GM, Doug Whaley, I believe his name is.
Doug Whaley, yeah.
I mean, I think he has to prove that he belongs, because I think that, usually when you make changes, you change the coach as well as the GM. You bring them both on board together, and the Bills are kind of going against the normal here. And, I think Doug Whaley's got to be feeling he's got to do some things here if he's going to keep his job. Yeah, and obviously we've got the draft, we've got free agency, a lot of things can happen, but even before those two things, I think that you could say that the Bills, they're a better football team. They're definitely a better football team than they were in December after the end of the season when they beat the Patriots there.
Absolutely. The one pickup we didn't talk about is your boy, Richie Incognito.
Yeah, no, I forgot about him. He's easily forgettable.
And you know what? I think that's the most important pickup.
Well, I know your offensive line needs help, but I'll be honest with you. It's not like Incognito was playing that great for the Dolphins. And he's a year older.
Hey, we'll take good on that offensive line.
I guess you must be desperate then. Look, Richie is going to be a good boy. He's going to behave because he knows he's got a very short leash and that anything, he will be gone. I'm sure that the Pagulas have told him to stay out of certain night spots in the Buffalo area as well as across the border, Niagara Falls, Canada. And I'm sure he's going to be very well behaved because he knows that I think if he slips up even once, it's bye-bye. So,
yeah.
Anything else about the Bills you want to add?
No. How about your Dolphins?
My Dolphins. Oh, boy.
What do we got?
They cut Brian Hartline. That's my favorite player whose jersey I have. So, of course, Robert and I are now in the market for new jerseys. Although
we're going to come in with T-shirts.
I've got a safe bet, though, because this is the Dolphins' 50th season. It's they're going to do a lot of throwback stuff, I'm sure. So I'm just going to wear my old Merino jerseys. I'm all set. I'm not going to buy a new jersey. Although I will say this, if I was going to buy a jersey, Jarvis Landry. I love this kid. He had a great rookie season for the Dolphins. I think he's only going to get better. I would buy a number 14 jersey, Jarvis Landry. I would not buy a number 11 Mike Wallace jersey because, I mean, this seems to be the hottest topic by far of the Dolphins off season. And do you keep him? Do you trade him? Do you cut him? Well, you can't trade him because no one's going to take on that contract. And he's not going to take a pay cut. No athlete is going to turn away money, okay? I think the Dolphins, and I think they're already doing this, is they need to basically get on board with this guy and sit him down and talk to him and work these things out. And I've already heard that he's met up with Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback, and they've had a discussion, and they seem to be on the same page. I think he's too good a talent to get rid of. I mean, you can't just keep getting rid of talented players. I mean, look, Mike Wallace has not done anything off the field to embarrass himself for the organization. He hasn't been arrested. He hasn't done anything. He's had issues with how he's being used on the field, and I think those things can be worked out. I really do believe that, and the Dolphins do not. I hope they don't get rid of him because I think that they're a better team with him than without him. Now, Brian Hartline could possibly come back at a reduced price. That's a possibility. I guess he's visiting the Patriots. That's interesting. He visited the Texans earlier today. He visited the Browns. I think he might have even visited the Colts. But I'd love to see him back wearing aqua and orange because, well, then I wouldn't get rid of my jersey. But even then, I like the guy. I just think that last year he just didn't get many balls thrown to him. That was really the biggest reason why his numbers were down. It's not like he was dropping everything. They just didn't throw to him as much. And I think that was because of Jarvis Landry, and I think because Mike Wallace wanted the ball more. I think, that Brian Hartline is still a productive receiver. He can still make plays for you. And I think that hopefully he'll come back to the Dolphins. But I'm not going to get my heart set on because I have a feeling he's going to go someplace else. And I'll tell you, if New England does offer him a contract, I think he'd be a fool to turn it down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough to walk away from, getting balls thrown your way by Tom Brady there. Hopefully they're not deflated ones either. So there we go. And, of course, the other big, I wouldn't even call it news because nothing's happened yet, but there's a lot of rumors that the Dolphins are going to be going after Ndamukong Suh. I can't say that first name with anything. I'm just saying Suh from now on, okay? I have mixed emotions about it because obviously he's a great player. On the field he's had some issues with his temper and extracurricular activities and even off the field. I think there was a speeding incident or something. He was driving 100. That's not too smart. But, the thing is, are you a better football team with Suh on your team? And I think the answer is yes. But from a standpoint of the amount of money it's going to take to get him and what you're going to have to do to get under the cap to do it, yeah, there's some dead weight you're going to cut anyways. But could you be using that money for other free agents that maybe they're not the big splashy name, but they're still solid contributors can make your football team better? Because the Dolphins have a lot of needs. I mean, we're talking cornerback, we're talking offensive line, we're talking linebacker. Could the money you're spending on Suh be better spent for those positions? So would it be great to have him on the team? Oh, absolutely. But at the price he's going to demand and for some of the baggage he's going to bring along, is it worth it? I don't know. My gut says no, that it's not worth everything that he brings because he's one player. The defensive line did have some issues last year, broke down towards the end of the year. He would definitely help it out. But I think there's too many other issues with this team that, they're not. If they sign him, I don't think they're going to be able to do much else in free agency. And in the draft, you're talking rookies and how much can they contribute? They can contribute a little bit, but I wouldn't be anticipating after your second round pick having a guy who's going to be an everyday starter and a very good one. So I'm not really crazy about the signing, but I understand that, something, if you sign Suh, you sell jerseys, you sell tickets. The Dolphins are renovating their stadium. They're selling, they got to fill that place up. They got to sell tickets. So I understand that there's a lot of, sizzle here in getting a superstar like Suh on your team. Because like I said, it gets the Dolphins in the national conversation. But then again, they did this 2 years ago with Mike Wallace, and where did it get them? They're not in the playoffs, and, they're not a better football team. a much better football team with Mike Wallace. That being said, I hope he stays. But anything about the Dolphins that you want to add, being the observer, AFC East rival here, about the Dolphins?
No, I think that I think you covered it pretty well. I would just say that, I did see something about the Dolphins possibly eyeing C.J. Spiller.
Yeah, I did see that. That's not going to happen.
Which I thought about. I'm like, well, Dolphins, one thing they do have is running back depth. So adding C.J. Spiller to the mix would probably not be his preferred destination. I'm sure he wants to go somewhere where he's the number one guy.
Yeah.
And in Miami, he would be kind of the number 1A guy because he would split time.
I mean, what is he? Is he a third down back? Number one, the guy gets hurt a lot. Okay, you got to be able to stay on the field. Okay, and
durability is an issue,
and that hurts. I mean, I think that's really the biggest reason why the Dolphins wouldn't sign him, because if you're going to spend money on a free agent like that, you better get your money's worth out of him. So, all right.
What would you say is before we go on to the next topic? What would you say in the draft is the number one position you want to see the Dolphins go after?
I would either say cornerback, linebacker, or offensive line. Unfortunately, I think they're going to need wide receivers because they also cut Brandon Gibson there, and there's 2 wide receivers you've cut. So, but I think you can address that in the later rounds. Maybe you might be able to find someone maybe in the 3rd or 4th round. But I think cornerback and offensive line. I mean, cornerback. Look, you're running up against Tom Brady twice a year. You better have great guys on coverage. So I think cornerback, offensive line, and linebacker, and that order basically. I think those are the areas that you really need to address if you're the Dolphins.
Yeah. On the Bills side, I would say tight end and linebacker. Giving up Alonso, I think you need to bring in another versatile linebacker that fits in what Rex wants to do, and then tight end, because if you're going to have E.J. Manuel out there, who better than a good solid tight end to throw to really give you kind of that that kind of safety, security blanket, if you will, to get comfortable and throw the ball to 60, 70 times a year. So, yeah.
Next topic, if you don't mind if we move along, is the recent, I wouldn't say it's even recent, but it's just this, it seems like it's getting more attention of college kids running onto the court after a big game or after any game, really. And, it's only a matter of time before someone gets really hurt, seriously hurt, and then there's going to be lawsuits, there's going to be criminal action. I just, look, I understand you want to celebrate, great, but you can do it in the stands, jumping up and down. I covered Syracuse men's basketball for 10 years at the Dome, and there were a couple times where players rushed the court. Luckily, where I was sitting, it wasn't near the student section, so it wasn't as bad, but, it's like if you're on press row, you're grabbing your laptop, and you're running for your life, because it can be dangerous. You get people who they don't really seem to see what's going on around them. They're just trying to get on that floor to celebrate. And again, I have no problem with people celebrating, but just do it in a way where no one's going to get hurt. Because there was a story, this is probably about 10 years ago, I think, in Arizona. There was a high school athlete who was on the court. I forget whether he was a player or a fan, but he had accepted a full scholarship to Stanford to play volleyball, and he got knocked over and suffered brain damage, and unfortunately was not able to play volleyball at Stanford. And it's a really sad story. It's very dangerous. I was covering an Auburn high school football game about 20 years ago, and I was on the field at the end of the game, and on the last play of the game, it went overtime, and Auburn won in overtime, and the kids rushed the field. Again, dramatic win, I give you that, but it wasn't over like a huge rival or a playoff game, or just it was an ordinary win. But it was crazy, and I literally was trying to get the heck out of the way before I got ran over. And I wrote a column about it back then. I just said it's just not a good idea. It's very dangerous. Someone can get hurt. I hate to be the old stick in the mud here, but I just think that someone's going to get hurt seriously, and then, there are going to be a lot of regrets. And then I think you're going to have to alleviate this by serious penalties. If your team has to forfeit the game that they just won because of it, I think that'll stop the court storming. Absolutely, we'll just stop it. Robert, what do you think?
I think it needs to be banned. I think it needs to be banned at the college level. I think it needs to be banned at the high school level. You don't see this kind of thing in the pros.
No.
They do it for security reasons, first and foremost, among other things. it's security, not only defending that arena from any outside threats, but also the security of the players. Right. And that's one of the things. There was a Kansas State game recently where Kansas State had stormed the court, and there was some mix-ups, I should say, involving a few players. And the players get the finger pointed at them, but yet if you look at the situation, if you look at the big picture, they're put in a situation where they have these people running at them, running, past them or whatever, bumping into them. Yeah. And it's not a safe situation. And, there's been players that have been knocked over, stepped on. You mentioned the case involving the recruited volleyball player there. And there's been other cases where, there's been people that have been, who have had minor injuries, but still injured nonetheless. And, I think it has to be college-wide, high school-wide. It really falls to the NCAA, the member conferences at the high school level, the sanctioning bodies, here the State Public High School Athletic Association, to say, look, enough's enough. This isn't permitted. This isn't it's a safety issue. Yep. If we're going to talk about safety in sports, you have to address it, and I think it's their responsibility to do so. I
think if the PA announcer, like with 5 minutes left in the game, no matter what the score is, said, a reminder that if you are rushing the court, if you're a student, you could be expelled. I think that would really be pretty serious. Or you could be criminally charged, or the team has to forfeit the game. Yeah. I just think that, again, and this happened last night in a local high school game that we covered. Moravia was playing at Watkins Glen, and I wasn't there, so I didn't see everything that happened. But from what I've been hearing, the stands are very close to the floor, and it's easy for the fans to interact with the players, and that creates a very dangerous situation, especially in a high school game, a high school playoff game, where emotions are running high. I guess this was a pretty physical game, because I know that our reporter Kristen, who was there, was tweeting that it was not well officiated, and usually that means it's pretty physical if they're not calling fouls. So that's my analysis of what I was reading about it. And it's dangerous. And again, I think that the only way you're going to stop something bad from happening is to have very serious penalties. Again, if you're a student, you're expelled or arrested, or the team has to forfeit. And I think that'll just, to quote Barney Fife, nip it right in the bud. Yeah,
one of the best quotes, best pieces of advice, wisdom, whatever you want to call it, I've ever heard in sports over the years is act like you've won before.
Yeah.
Act like you've been there before. And, you mentioned the example last night. Watkins Glen was the top seed. Yeah. They were the home team. If you don't win that game, you have no reason to lose.
Yeah.
You have the advantage on a couple of fronts. And to storm the court after that, to me, was just a poor show of sportsmanship, gloating, all this other stuff. That's where, they talk about the, in what situation should you storm the court, if you're an unranked team or whatever. And to me, it's all silly. If you have to have those inner debates, then it shouldn't be allowed at all.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I was talking about the Auburn game I was covering back in the mid-'90s, and I wrote a column about it, and I got a lot of negative feedback from students, and they were saying, well, we don't win that often. We don't win many games, so we want to celebrate when we win a game because it's, we don't win that many games. Well, like you just said, win like you've won before. Show that you're that you know how to handle this. And it was just like I said. I'm glad Auburn isn't like that anymore. That they do win on a consistent basis, where these kids feel like every time they win a game they got to mob the field. It's just, again, it can be dangerous. Someone can be hurt. And the only way that you're ever going to address this is to be very serious in the penalties for anybody who gets caught. And God knows now, difference between now and 20 years ago, everybody's got a cell phone camera. There's cameras all over the place, especially for these college games. They're all televised. You can see who went on the field or the court, and you can figure out who it is. And again, you can either kick them out of school or arrest them. So, anything else you want to add, Robert?
I'm done.
We're done. Hey, we're done, folks. And we appreciate you watching. And I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. I have no clue. Probably the NFL again. Maybe we just do NFL 52 weeks a year. I mean, it seems like that's all anybody cares about is the NFL.
And I'll talk about spring training.
I know we got to talk about spring training. We did talk a little bit about it recently. But anyways, folks, we appreciate you watching the video. And if you liked it, please don't hesitate to like it or share the link even better. And until next week, we'll see you then. Take care.